Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone watching. First of all, I would like to greet you a happy new year. May this year bring us new opportunities, personal growth, good health, and success, not only in our academics but also in our everyday lives. I hope everyone is doing well and feeling energized for today's discussion. I am Rian Grace B. Escobedo from Group 3, and I will be your reporters for today's video. For this discussion, I will be covering several topics under Chapter 5, Personality and Values, while my group mates will discuss other related topics from Chapter 6 up to Chapter 5 up to Chapter 6. So I kindly ask everyone to stay focused, listen carefully, enjoy the discussion as we go along. But before we officially start, handa na ba ang lahat na makinig? Okay, clap naman dyan! Alright, let's begin. For this chapter, our main goal is to understand personality and values. Specifically, by the end of the discussion, we should be able to define personality, explain how it measured, and identify the factors that shape an individual's personality. Second, describe the Myers-Briggs type indicator, including the strengths and weaknesses. Identify the key traits in the Big Five personality model, understand how these traits influence behavior in the workplace. We will also recognize other personality traits that are relevant to organizational behavior. Lastly, we will define values, understand their importance, and identify Hofstede's value dimensions of national culture. These objectives will guide our entire discussion today. To start our discussion, let me share this quote. I am driven by fear of failure. It is a strong motivator for me. By Dennis Manning, former CEO of Guardian Life Insurance Company. This quote reminds us that people are motivated by different things. Some people are driven by success, some by recognition. Others, like in this quote, are motivated by fear of failure. And these differences are deeply connected to personality. Why does this topic matter? Every day, we interact with different people classmates, teachers, friends, and eventually co workers. Even when we experience the same situation, we react very differently. Some people stay calm under pressure, some naturally take the lead, others prefer to observe first before acting. So these differences are not accidental. They are explained by personality and values, and understanding them helps us work better with others. So, what exactly is personality? According to the ebook, personality is a dynamic concept that describes the growth and development of a person's psychological system. When we say dynamic, it means personality is not fixed forever. It can develop and change as we gain experience, maturity, and new environments. However, personality also includes enduring characteristics that describe an individual's behavior. This means that although people grow, there are traits that remain relatively stable over time. For example, a naturally shy person may become more confident, but they may still prefer quiet environments. Gordon Allport defined personality as the dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine unique adjustments to the environment. In simpler terms, this means personality is the combination of mental and physical systems that influence how we adjust and respond to our surroundings. This explains why each person reacts differently even in the same situation. Another simple way to understand personality is this. Personality is the sum total of how a person reacts to and interacts with others. So, personality shows in how we talk, how we decide, how we handle stress, and how we relate to people. Next, personality can be measured, and this is especially important in the workplace. Managers use personality tests to help in hiring, predict job performance, match people to the right roles. So there are two main methods of measuring personality. First, self-report surveys, and second, observer rating surveys. So let's start with self-report surveys. Self-report surveys are tests where individuals evaluate themselves. For example, I worry a lot about the future. So basically, in self-report surveys, ikaw mismo ang sumasagot tungkol sa sarili mo. You are the one rating your own thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Why is this useful or the pros? Because people usually know themselves best, diba? If the test is well designed and honest yung sagot, the result can be very helpful. However, there are limitations or the cons. Some people may answer dishonestly, choose the answers that make them look good, or be influenced by their current mood. Like, for example, if someone is stressed or sad that day, their answer might not reflect their usual personality. So, self report surveys are helpful, but not always perfect. In observer rating surveys, personality is rated by co-workers, supervisors, or observers. Unlike self-report surveys, ibang tao ang nag-rate sa'yo. For example, a supervisor might rate how dependable you are at work, or a classmate might rate how you cooperate during activities. This method is often more accurate in predicting job performance because it is based on actual behavior, not just self perception. However, observers can also be biased, so this method also has limitations. Studies show that combining self report surveys and observer rating surveys gives the most complete picture of personality. This combination improves accuracy and prediction of job performance. Personality is shaped by two major factors, the heredity and environment. Research shows that both are important, but heredity has a stronger influence. Heredity refers to the traits we are born with. This come from our parents and are already present at conception. Examples of heredity factors include physical stature, temperament, energy level, biological rhythms. For instance, some people are naturally energetic while others are naturally calm. Even as children, we already show differences in behavior, and those differences often continues as we grow older. These inherited traits form the foundation of our personality. Proceed? Proceed. Personality traits are enduring characteristics that describe how a person behaves. When we say enduring, it means these traits are relatively stable. They are shown across many situations and over time. For example, if a person is shy, they are usually shy not just once, but in many situations. If someone is loyal, they are usually loyal to friends, family, and organizations. So these traits help explain why people behave consistently across different situations. There are many ways to understand personality, but two major frameworks are commonly used. First, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator or MBTI. Next is Big Five Personality Model. Let's start with Myers-Briggs Type Indicator or MBTI. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator classifies people into 16 personality types based on four characteristics. First, extroversion versus introversion. Extroverts gain energy from social interaction. Like, for example, an extroverted person enjoys group discussions, meeting new people, and speaking up during class or meeting. Introverts, on the other hand, prefer quiet environments and regain energy by being alone. Like, for example, an introverted person may prefer working independently, reflecting quietly, or listening more than speaking. Second, sensing versus intuition. Sensing types focus on facts, details, and practical information. For instance, a sensing person prefers clear instructions and follow tasks step by step. Intuitive types focus on ideas, patterns, and the big picture. For instance, an intuitive person enjoys brainstorming, imagining future possibilities, and thinking beyond the present situation. Third, thinking versus feeling. Thinking types makes decision using logic and objective analysis. An example for this, a thinking person focuses on what is fair, reasonable, and efficient when solving a problem. Feeling types make decisions based on emotions and personal values. An example of this, a feeling person considers how a decision might affect other people's feelings. Lastly, judging versus perceiving. Judging types prefer structure, planning, and organization. Example, a judging person likes schedules, deadlines, and having things planned ahead. Perceiving types, on the other hand, prefer flexibility and spontaneity, or spontaneous. An example for this, a perceiving person easily adapts to changes and it is open to last-minute decisions. So this framework helps people understand their preferences, but it should never be used to label or limit individuals. Now, let's proceed to the second personality framework, the Big Five personality model. This model identifies five basic dimensions that describe human personality. First, extroversion, being sociable and assertive. An example for this, a person who is comfortable speaking in front of others shows high extroversion. Second, agreeableness, being cooperative and trusting. For instance, someone who avoids conflict and willingly help groupmates demonstrates agreeableness. Next, conscientiousness, being responsible and organized. For example, submitting requirements on time reflects high conscientiousness. Fourth, emotional stability, or being calm versus anxious. For instance, remaining composed under pressure shows emotional stability. For the last dimension, openness to experience. It is imagination, curiosity, and creativity. An example for this, enjoying new ideas and creative tasks reflects high openness. So the Big Five model is widely accepted because it strongly predicts behavior, especially in the workplace. To wrap it up, personality is what makes each of us unique. It explains why some people act one way while others act differently, even in the same situation. Each trait has strengths and each person contributes something valuable. So the next time someone reacts differently than you expect, remember, it might just be their personality, not their attitude. Thank you for sticking with me, and please stay tuned as my group mates continue the discussion. Once again, this is Rian Grace Bonita Escobedo of Group 3. Thank you and see you on the next part of our presentation.
Other personality traits relevant to OB. So we have here 6 types of other personality traits, which are first, core self-evaluation. So people who have positive core self-evaluation like themselves and see themselves as effective, capable, and in control of their environment. While those who have negative core self-evaluation, they tend to dislike themselves. They question their capability and view themselves as powerless over their environment. So core self-evaluation is all about how confident someone feels in themselves. Confident people take on challenges, while those who doubt themselves may hesitate or feel stuck. Next, we have Machiavellianism. It's a degree to which an individual is pragmatic. They maintains emotional distance and believes that end can justify means. So it was written by Niccolo Machiavelli, who wrote it in 16th century on how to gain and use power. So this Machiavellianism shows how someone focuses on results and uses strategy, and they sometimes putting aside emotion or rules to achieve goals. Next is narcissism. So narcissism is the tendency to be arrogant, have a grandiose sense of self-importance, require excessive admiration, and have the sense of entitlement. So basically, narcissism is describing people who think highly of themselves and one constant praise or recognition. Next, self-monitoring. So this is a personality trait that measures an individual's ability to adjust his or her behavior to external situational factors. Simply to say, it's the ability to notice situation and adapt your behavior accordingly, like acting professional in meetings but casual with friends. Next, proactive personality. So proactive personality is those people who identify opportunities, show initiative, they take action and persevere until meaningful change occurs. So they are more on taking charge and making improvements without waiting for instruction. Next is other orientation. So it's a personality trait that shows how much a person's decision and actions are influenced by concern for others' well-being rather than only their own interests. So it shows how much someone consider other people's need when making decision, not just their own. So next we have here is what is values. So values is basic condition that a specific mode of conduct or end state of existence is personally or socially preferable to an opposite or converse mode of conduct or end state of existence. So they contain a judgment element in that they carry an individual ideas as to what is right, good, or desirable. So values are the beliefs that guide what people see as right or wrong, and they influence behavior and choices. Next, we have values have both content and intensity attributes. So we have two types here, which are content attribute and intensity attribute. So content attribute is a mode of conduct or end state of existence is important, while intensity attributes specify how important it is. So some things are important to people and some are more important than others. So these two parts shows what matters and how strongly it matters. Next is value system, a hierarchy based on a ranking of an individual's values in terms of their intensity. So people organize their values from most to least important, which affects decision and priorities. Okay, so the importance of values. So values lay the foundation for our understanding of people attitudes and motivation and influence our perception. We enter an organization with preconceived notion of what ought and ought not to be. So these notions are not value free. On the contrary, they contain our interpretation of right and wrong and our preference for certain behaviors or outcomes over others. So as a result, values cloud objectivity and rationality. They influence attitudes and behavior. So important of values is that it matters because they shape how people think, feel, and act. So they influence decision and behavior in work and life. So that's how important values is. Let's proceed to terminal versus instrumental values. So we have Rokach Value Survey. So Rokach Value Survey was created by Milton Rokach. It consists of two sets of values, and each of them contain 18 individual value items, so which are terminal values and instrumental values. So first, terminal values. This refer to desirable end state or life goals a person wants to achieve. So ito yung mga big goals people aim for in life, like guiding long-term choices. For example, the prosperity and economic success, freedom, health and well-being, world peace, social recognition, meaning in life. Okay, so next, instrumental values. So this refer to preferred mode of behavior or ways to reach terminal values. For example, self-improvement, autonomy, and self-reliance, personal discipline, kindness, ambition, and goal orientation. So, we have an example here para matal natin yung difference between terminal and instrumental values. Okay, so Anna want to be a doctor. So, that is a terminal value kasi Anna want to be a doctor, that's life goal. So, in order to Anna to become a doctor, she needs to study hard and practice discipline every day. So, that's the instrumental values kasi it's a preferred modes of behavior or ways to reach terminal values. So, that's the difference between the two of them. Hindi natin ma-reach ang terminal values without instrumental values. Okay, so next, we have here studies confirm that RVS values vary among social and occupational groups such as corporate, managers, union members, parents, and students. So we have one study, they compared corporate executives, steelworkers union member, and community activities. So activities was ranked equality highest, terminal value, while executive and union members ranked in 12 and 13. So activists ranked helpful second highest, instrumental value, but the other groups ranked it 14. Okay, so generational values na tayo proceed. We have here contemporary work cohorts. So researchers have integrated several recent analysis of work values into 4 groups that attempt to capture the unique values of different cohorts or generation in the U.S. workforce. So as you can see, we have here an image, Exhibit 5.4, dominant work values in today's workforce. Ito banda, under sa cohort, we have boomers, Nsers, and nexters. So this Exhibit 5.4 segments employees by the era during which they entered the workforce. Because most people start work between the age of 18 and 23. So the eras also correlate closely with employee age. Okay, so before that, we have a limitation analysis. So first, we make no assumption that the framework applies across all cultures. So, hindi tayo pwede mag-make ng assumption agad kasi hindi ibig sabihin na lahat nun ay apply sa lahat ng culture. Maybe some of them take that, idea or so we cannot make assumption agad. So next, second is, despite a steady stream of press coverage, there is a very little rigorous research on generational. So, limited lang talaga siya. Third is that, finally, these are imprecise categories. So there is no laws that someone born in 1985 can't have values similar to those of someone born in 1955. So there are also imprecise categories. So, despite this limitation, values do change over generation. So, hindi ibig sabihin ng values can constant siya, but they do change over generation. But, you can actually gain some useful insight from analyzing values this way. Okay, so next, dito na tayo kay baby boomers. So, baby boomers, mid-1960 to mid-1980s, they are influenced by hippie ethic, some distrust of authority. So, they want success, achievement, ambition, and they dislike authority, and they are loyal to career. So, they value achievement, material success, and hard work, and they see organization as career vehicles. So, and as you can see, ang top value nila is accomplishment and social recognition. So, they are more on career. Next is Generation Xers. So, itong Generation Xers, they are balanced. Binabalance ko yung work and life. So, as you can see, meron tayong dominant work values. So, they are influenced by globalization, two-career parent, MTV, AIDS, technology. They value flexibility, job satisfaction, family, and teamwork. So, unlike kanina, ang gina-value nila is career, but here in Generation Xers, hindi lang job yung kanyang focus, but also family. So, they are work-life balance. They are team-oriented, and they dislike of rules, loyalty to relationships. So, their top values are true friendship, happiness, and pleasures. Next, millennials. They are also called Generation Years or Nexters. So, they grew up in prosperous times, technologically savvy. So, actually, they are 2000 to present. So, under 630. So, they seek meaning in work, social responsibility, recognition. So, yung life goal nila is to become rich, 81%, and they also want to be famous, 51%. Rather than the Generation Sirs yung kanina, for them, sa Generation Sirs, ang rich nila is 62%, while yung famous nila is 29%. But they also see themselves as socially responsible. Next, the traits nila is to question, they are entrepreneurial, network sometimes sees as entitled or needy. So, prefer frequent feedback, 85% versus 50% of boomers. So, they may clash with other generation over work style and communication. Okay, so, next, we have personality job fit theory. So, a theory that identifies 6 personality types and proposes that the fit between personality type and an occupational environment determines satisfaction and turnover. So, meron tayong image here. We have realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. Okay, so Exhibit 5.5. Ito, next thing niya. So, realistic refers physical activities that require skills, strength, and coordination. So, yung personality nila is shy, genuine, persistent, stable, and conforming, practical. So, itong mga realistic, they are mostly like mechanic or drill press operator, assembly line worker, and farmer. Next, investigative. They prefer activities that involve thinking, organizing, and understanding. So, their personality characteristic is analytical, original, curious, independent. So, ito yung sila mga biologists, economists, mathematician, and news reporter. Next, social. They prefer naman ang activities that involve helping and developing others. They are sociable, friendly, cooperative, understanding. So, itong mga social na to, they are most likely mga social worker, mga teacher, counselor, and clinical psychologists. Next, we have conventional. Ito naman sila mga rule-regulated, orderly, and unambiguous activities. And sila ay confirming, efficient, practical, and imaginative, inflexible. Itong conventional na to is, ito yung mga accountant, corporate manager, bank teller, and file clerk. Okay, next, enterprising. They prefer verbal activities in which there are opportunities to influence others and attain power. So, they are self-confident, ambitious, energetic, and domineering. So, itong mga enterprising, they are most likely lawyer, mga real estate agent, public relations specialist, small business manager. And lastly, artistic. Ito naman mga artistic is they prefer ambitious and unsystematic activities that allow creative expression. They are imaginative, disorderly, idealistic, emotional, and practical. Yan sila mga painter, musician, writer, interior decorator.
Good day, everyone. So, let's proceed on talking about person-organization fit. Person-organization fit focuses on how well a person matches an organization as a whole, not just a specific job position. This concept is important, especially in today's modern workplaces. Many organizations are now dynamic and constantly changing. Employees are no longer limited to one fixed role. Instead, they move between different tasks, projects, and teams. In other terms, you are not only assigned in one specific job in the rest of your life. Because of this, fitting into the organizational culture becomes more important than simply fitting into one job. Even if an employee has strong technical skills, they may still struggle if their personality, attitudes, and values do not match how the organization works. This explains why some employees feel comfortable, motivated, and satisfied at work, while others feel stressed, unhappy, or disconnected. So, kumbaga, if you're not comfortable sa workplace mo, kahit na gaano ka kagaling, mahihirapan ka pa rin. The theory behind person-organization fit explains three important ideas. First, people are naturally attracted to organizations that share their values. For example, a person who values teamwork and cooperation is more likely to apply organizations that promote collaboration rather than competition. People often choose workplaces where they believe they will feel accepted and understood. Second, organizations tend to select employees who fit their culture. During the hiring process, employers do not only look at skills, education, and experience, they also observe personality, attitude, and values. Employers ask questions to see if the applicant's behavior and beliefs align with the organization. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang sa resume ang basihan, kundi pati ugali at pananaw ng tao. Third, employees are more likely to leave organizations when there is a poor fit. When a person's personality and values do not match the organization's culture, job satisfaction decreases. Commitment becomes weaker and stress increases. Over time, this often leads to resignation or turnover. This shows that person-organization fit affects not only hiring decisions but also job satisfaction, commitment, and employee retention. The person-organization fit also connects to personality, particularly to the big five personality traits. These traits help explain why different people fit better in different organizational environments. Employees with high extroversion tend to fit well in aggressive, fast-paced, and team-oriented organizations. These individuals are outgoing, energetic, and comfortable interacting with others. Examples include sales, companies, and marketing firms and competitive business environments where communication and confidence are important. Employees with high agreeableness fit better in supportive and cooperative organizations. They value harmony, kindness, and helping others. These traits are well suited for healthcare settings. Employees with high agreeableness fit better in supportive and cooperative organizations. They value harmony, kindness, and helping others. These traits are well suited for healthcare settings, nonprofit organizations, and service-oriented workplaces. While employees with high openness to experience fit best in organizations that value creativity, innovation, and change, they enjoy new ideas and flexible thinking. Examples include tech startups, design firms, and creative industries. Organizations that consider these personality traits during hiring are more likely to increase employee satisfaction, improve commitment, and reduce employee turnover. Another important part of person-organization fit is values-based fit. Research shows that when an employee's values align with the organization's culture, positive outcomes occur. When values match, there are three positive outcomes. Number one is where satisfaction increases, commitment to the organization becomes stronger, employee turnover decreases. Employees feel motivated because they believe in what the organization stands for. They also highlights that person-organization fit is influenced by culture. In collectivist cultures, such as many Asian countries, group harmony, loyalty, and cooperation are highly valued. In these cultures, fitting into the group is often more important than personal preference. In contrast, in individualistic cultures like the United States, personal goals, independence, and individual achievement may be more important. This shows that culture background affects how people experience person-organization fit. To better understand this concept, here are some real-life examples. A person who values teamwork will feel more comfortable in an organization that encourages collaboration instead of competition. An employee who values creativity and innovation may leave an organization that focuses only on strict rules and fixed procedures. Someone who prefers flexibility and change may struggle in a rigid organization with limited freedom and fixed roles. So, to summarize it, person-organization fit explains how matching personality and values with organizational culture leads to higher job satisfaction, stronger commitment, and lower employees' turnover. Understanding this concept helps both employees and organizations create healthier, more productive, and more successful workplaces. Now, let's proceed on Chapter 6. I'm going to discuss about perception and individual decision making. This chapter focuses on how people perceive situations and how they make decisions. It explains that people do not always act based on facts. Instead, they act based on how they understand and interpret information. Sa madaling salita, hindi lahat ng desisyon ay based sa totoo, kundi based sa iniisip natin na totoo. Perception plays an important role in decision making. Even if two people face the same situation, their decisions may still be different. This happens because each person has a different way of seeing and understanding things. This chapter also explains that people use judgment, but this judgment is not always perfect. Sometimes we rely on personal opinions, emotions, or past experiences instead of complete facts. Because of this, people may make mistakes or unfair decisions without realizing it. Another important part of this chapter is the role of technology and machines in decision making. Today, machines are used to help or even replace human decisions, especially in work, school, and healthcare. However, machines still depend on human input, so they are not always perfect. So, I will be now discussing the perception. Perception is how we organize and interpret information from our surroundings. Every day, we see, hear, and experience many things, but we do not understand them the same way. Our brain gives meaning to what we experience, and this process is called perception. Perception explains why people react differently to the same situation. Two people may experience the same event, but their reactions may not be the same because they understand it differently. It means that people have different perceptions, or in Tagalog, pananaw. What matters most is not reality itself, but how we perceive reality. Even if something is not actually true, if we believe it is true, it will still affect our behavior. Our actions are based on what we think is happening, not always on what is really happening. This is why perception is very important in communication and relationships. Many misunderstandings happen because people assume things without knowing the full situation. For example, a teacher may see a quiet student and think that the student is not interested in class, but in reality, the student may just be shy. The teacher's perception affects how the student is judged. So, in shorter explanation, perception affects how we think, feel, and act. By understanding perception, we can avoid misunderstanding and treat others more fairly. And now I will discuss the factors that influence the perception. So, perception is influenced by three main factors: the perceiver, the target, and the situation. These factors explain why people see the same thing differently. First are the factors in the perceiver, or the person who is observing. These include attitudes, past experiences, expectations, interests, and motives. Our personal experiences affect how we understand situations. If someone has a bad experience or trauma, that someone still carries that burden up until now. An example is, if you had bad experience with group work before, you may already expect problems in your next group project even before it starts. Second are factors in the target, or the person or object being observed. These include appearance, movement, size, sound, and novelty. People often judge others based on how they look. A well-dressed person is usually seen as more professional than someone dressed casually. Example, that someone is more perceived as successful or has a profession. Lastly, are factors in the situation. These include time, place, social setting, and environment. The same behavior can be seen differently depending on the situation. In this statement, it states that people tend to perceive somebody based on closeness or relationship. For example, seeing a classmate dressed formally at a party may look normal, but seeing them dressed the same way in class may seem unusual. Understanding these factors helps us avoid quick judgments and understand each other's better.
Hello everyone, for now's topic is attribution theory. So this explains how we judge and interpret others people's behavior. So in this topic, we're going to focus on the behavior of people inside of an organization. And it focuses on whether behavior is caused by internal factors or external factors. So the next is we're going to talk about the internal factors and external factors. So first, internal, and it means caused behaviors are those we believe to be under the personal. So this talks about the person's personality talaga, like yung personality talaga nila under them. So parang kunwari, ikaw, tiningnan kita na mabuti, tapos parang na-feel ko na yung pagka-personality mo, diba? Pero in reality pala, baka ibang-iba yung ugali mo sa totoong buhay. So, in external, caused behavior is what we imagine the situation forced the individual to do. So, in this external, we imagine the person's behavior kasi there's a lot of people na nafo-force ng ginagawa yung mga bagay sa organization, diba? So, nai-imagine mo yung mga ugali nila sa organization kapag may ginawa silang something in your imagination, like napilit sila. So what's the reaction of their personality towards that force thing to do sa kanila. So next one is three determining factors of attribution theory. So there's three, diba? And it is distinctiveness, consensus, and consistency. So first, distinctiveness. So it refers to whether an individual displays a different behaviors in different situations. So this talks about a person na may iba-iba yung ugali nila sa different situation. So kunwari, may kachat ako dalawa. And yung isa, kachat ko is very cold namin dalawa. And we're just like very nonchalant to each other. While the second one, we are always laughing sa mga topics namin na ginagawa. So that's different situations. So different personalities ang nilalabas ko rin. So next is consensus. It refers to whether others behave the same way in a similar situation. So this talks about to people or other people, like kahit grupo pa yan or other what. And lahat ng pagkaugali nila is the same way sa isang similar situation. Kunwari, mga kaibigan ko at ako, kapag nag-recitation sa harap yung yung mga kaklase namin, nananahimik kami kasi 'di ba natatakot ka na, nervous ka kasi wala kang masagot next. So yun yung consensus. So next is consistency. So ang consistency naman, it refers to whether a person behaves the same way over time. So this talks about the person's personality's consistency. So kunwari, 'di ba, ako everyday nagbabalo lang, naglalaro ng online games. Yun, consistent ako na every night, kahit walang araw at gabi na hindi ako naglalaro ng balo, and that's consistency. And kung sa ugali naman, kunwari, like palagi akong galit, like everyday, like there's no exception day. So yes. So as you can see there's a table over there, and there's individual behavior, yung sinabi ko nga kanina. And there's the three determining factors, the distinctiveness, consensus, and consistency. So if the distinctiveness is high, it means in external. Diba sinabi ko na sa'yo kung ano yung external kanina. Just backread na lang kung ganun. And kung low naman yung distinctiveness, it means internal. So, yung sa consensus naman, kung high, external, while it's low, it's internal. And sa consistency naman, kung high, internal, while ang consistency low naman is external. So next we're going to talk about the fundamental attribution error. So it explains why a sales manager is prone to attribute the poor. So this talks about the tendency to underestimate the influence of external factors and overestimate the influence of internal factors when making judgment about the behavior of others. So this talks about na judgmental yung mga bagay ng mga tao sa isang external factor pati internal. Diba sinabi ko na sa inyo? I talked about it earlier. So in this fundamental attribution error, it focuses on the judgment of a person's and the influence of making other people's underestimate sa external, while nag-overestimate naman sila sa internal dahil sa mga ugali. So nag-judge sila based on the personalities that people show. So next is self-serving bias. The tendency for individuals to attribute their own successes to internal factors and put the blame for failures on external factors. So ito na nga, judgmental, di ba? There's another thing naman, self-serving bias. So may bias ka sa isang internal factors or external factors. So kunwari, yung mga internal factors wala silang ginagawang mali sa'yo. Pero yung mga mali mo, ginasisi mo sa external factors. And that's very wrong since bias ka. So that's the point of self-serving bias. Like, iniisip mo lang yung pagka-favoritism mo sa mga factors. So now we're going to talk about the common shortcuts in judging others. And first is selective perception. It is the tendency to selectively interpret what one sees on the basis of one's interests, background, experience, and attitudes. So this focuses on a person's perception. So, nagpo-focus siya sa mga interests, backgrounds, experiences, and attitudes ng isang person para naman ma-judge mo siya. I mean, you are judging them or her or him. So, for example, I have a friend na may interest siya sa buhay and may background na bad background yung buhay niya and marami siyang bad experiences and bad attitudes dati. Pero ngayon kasi nagbago na siya. So there's a lot of possibilities na hindi ko siya mapapasok dahil sa iniisip ko ng mga bad things about sa kanya since ginajudge ko yung past niya. So next is halo effect. So this is a tendency to draw a general impression about an individual on the basis of a single characteristic. So parang bias because porket nakita mo na yung mabait side niya, mabait na talaga siya. Paano naman makita mo yung ibang side niya na pangit? O, di ba? Nag-isip-isip ka na, ay mabait siya, okay ito sa organization. So, pagkapasok niya sa organization, doon siya naging bulabog. O, naging bulabog na rin ang organization niyo. So, next is contrast effect. So, evaluation of a person's characteristics that is affected by comparisons with other people recently encountered who rank higher or lower on the same characteristics. So, this focuses on a two point of view. So, yung isa, kino-compare niya yung isa sa isa since yung isa is higher while yung isa is lower. So, itong dalawa na to, it is included in contrast effect since comparison ang focuses na to. So, next is stereotyping. So, stereotyping, judging someone on the basis of one's perception of the group to which that person belongs to. So, judgment din ito, di ba? Judging someone based on their, on their mukha. So, kunwari, yung kaibigan ko mukha siyang Indiano kahit Filipino naman, di ba? So, sinabi ko sa kanya, Indiano ka pala, bawal ka dito. So, di ba? Nag-judge ako agad without knowing his or her background. So, that's stereotyping. Like, parang very biased ka sa sarili mo since nakikita mo sa mga mukha niya na mukha siyang Indiano or Indiana kahit hindi naman siya ganun, di ba? So, next is specific applications of shortcuts in organization. So, next is specific applications of shortcuts in organization. So, next, first one is employment interview. So, nag-i-interview yung mga employee para makapasok sa organization. So, few people are hired without an interview, that's correct. But interviews form quick, often inaccurate impressions within seconds. Early information, especially negatives, carries more weight, and most decisions are made in the first few minutes. A good applicant is seen more by the absence of negative traits than the presence of favorable ones. So, this talks about the employees' attitudes, personalities kapag nag-i-interview. So, if you have negative attitudes towards the employer and you might be not get accepted of your job. Pero kung good applicant ka, kung marunong kang umintindi ng sarili mo ugali, mabait ka, so, yeah, there's a chance na makapasok ka. So, next is performance expectations. So, expectations, so there's a lot of people na nag-expectate talaga, di ba? So, people try to confirm their perceptions of reality even when those perceptions are incorrect. So, there's a lot of people talaga na nagsasabi na, alam, mabait ako, ganyan. Pero in reality, hindi talaga sila mabait. They're so very bad people. So, there's self-fulfilling prophecy and Pygmalion effect. So, they describe how an individual's behavior is determined by others' expectations. So, ito yung nagtatalks about sa isang person na tinitingnan nila yung behavior ng isang tao gamit yung utak nila. So, kunwari, naisip ko na yung isang girl na, ay, alam, maganda naman ito, ang bait. Pero sa totoong buhay pala, hindi siya mabait, maganda lang. So, that's how self-fulfilling prophecy and Pygmalion effect works. So, next is self-fulfilling prophecy. So, it's a situation in which a person inaccurately perceives a second person, and the resulting expectations cause the second person to behave in ways consistent with the original perception. So, this talks about a situation na dalawa naman. So, the first person is may sinabi siyang good thing about sa ugali ng second person. So, in a result of expectation ng first person, nagulat yung second person na yun yung pagka-expect ni first person sa kanya. So, parang naisip ni second person na gawin na lang yung sinabing ugali ay yung good ugali ni second person na sinabi ng first person. So, that's how self-fulfilling prophecy means. So, yung mga sinasabi na, ay, mabait ka pala. Tapos, kunwari, ako yung sinabi na mabait. So, in the next things times, sabihin, ang ginagawa ko na lang is magiging mabait. Since sinabihan ako na mabait, edi, mukha ako mabait, edi maging mabait na lang ako. So, next is performance evaluation. It depends heavily on perception and can significantly affect on employees' future, including promotions, pay raises, and job continuation. So this focuses on the evaluation of a person's performance in an organization. So next is the rational model, bounded rationality, and intuition. So next is rational decision making. So on a number of assumptions, including that the decision maker has complete information, is able to identify all the relevant options in an unbiased manner, and chooses the option with the highest utility. So, in this rational decision making, walang bias dito. So, kapag na-identify mo na yung mga relevant options, malamang, i-choose mo talaga yung high utility for your organization. Walang bias ha. Isipin mo lang yung good opportunity and good future for your organization. So next, rational decision and problem. So first, we're going to talk about the rational. It characterized by making consistent, value maximizing choices within specified constraints. So, yan nga, characterized by making consistent. Dapat consistency is here. Dapat consistent ka. So, yes. So, next is decision. So, choices made from among two or more alternatives, yes, decision, and problem. A discrepancy between the current state of affairs and some desired state. So, next is, these are the steps in the rational decision-making model. 1. Define the problem. 2. Identify the decision criteria. 3. Allocate weights to the criteria. 4. Develop the alternatives. 5. Evaluate the alternatives. And 6. Select the best alternative. And that's the definition of rational decision making. Select the best alternative for your organization. So next is bounded rationality. So it is a process of making decisions by constructing simplified models that extract the essential features from problems without capturing all their complexity. So ito na nga yung about rational and decision. So you need to make the decisions to construct a model for that problem. And for the last one is intuition or intuitive decision making. So the least rational way of making decisions and an unconscious process created out of distilled experience.
I am Farjahana Guro, and now let's move on and talk about the common biases and errors in decision making. So decision making is very important in our daily life, especially in school, work, and financial situations. However, people do not always make rational decisions. Because of limited information and time, people often rely on shortcuts in thinking. So these shortcuts can lead to biases which may result in poor or harmful decisions. Now, people try to make reasonable decisions, but biases often influence their judgment. First bias is we have overconfidence bias. So this happens when people believe that they are more accurate or skilled than they really are. So, being too confident. For example, many people believe that they are better than average at predicting outcomes. Investors often think that they can pick better stock than the others, but research shows that most investors
perform no better than the market. So because of overconfidence, they may lose money. So next one is the anchoring bias, wherein this happens when people focus too much on the first information that they receive. For example, two pilots were offered the same salary. So one pilot previously earned a lower salary and felt satisfied, while the other earned a previously high salary and felt unhappy. So the first salary that they received became the anchor that influenced their reaction to the new offer. So that is anchoring bias. Next is the confirmation bias, wherein this occurs when people look for information that supports their beliefs and ignore information that disagree with them. For example, investors may ignore negative information about a company and only focus on positive news, leading to them to make poor investment decisions. So that is confirmation bias, accepting the positive information while ignoring the negative informations. Next is the availability bias, wherein this happens when people judge risks based on information that is easy to remember or recently seen. For example, many people are more afraid of flying than driving because airplane crashes receive more media attention even though flying is actually safer than driving. So, another bias is the exclamation of commitment, wherein this happens naman when people continue with a bad decision because they already invested time, money, or effort in it. For example, a person stays in a failing relationship or project because they feel that they have already invested too much to quit kahit na it is clearly not working. So that is exclamation of commitment. Staying because you already invested too much in it. Next is randomness errors, which means believing that random events have meanings or patterns, even when they are actually just a chance. So people think that they can predict or control things that are random, but in reality, the outcome is not connected. So for example, some people believe that they should not make important decisions on Friday the 13th because they think something bad will happen. Others believe in lucky clothes or lucky routines like wearing the same outfit because they once won while wearing it. So these actions are based on superstitions and not real cause and effect. So next is risk aversion. This means people prefer safe choices over risky ones, even if the risky options could give them a better results. So for example, many people prefer a sure amount of money instead of taking a gamble, even when the gamble has a higher expected value. So this can prevent growth and innovation. So that is risk aversion, choosing the safest option. So lastly is the hindsight bias. So this happens when people believe that after an event occurs that they knew it would happen all along. Or this means that thinking something was obvious only after it already happens. No? For example, after the failure of companies like Blockbuster, many people said that the outcome was obvious. However, before it happened, many experts failed to predict it. So that is hindsight bias. In short, biases strongly affects decision making. Overconfidence, anchoring, confirmation bias, availability bias, exclamation of commitment, risk aversion, and hindsight bias. All these biases and errors can all lead to a poor choices. So being aware of these biases can help us or can help an individuals and organizations make better decisions. So next is individual differences in decision making. So in real life, decision making is not perfectly rational. So people are limited by information, often make mistakes, and sometimes they rely on intuition. So because of this, individual differences can cause people to make decisions in different ways. First, we have personality, wherein research shows that our personality affects the choices that we make. So even though studies on this are very limited. So there are two personality traits that influences decision making. So we have the conscientiousness and the self-esteem. So first is let's talk about conscientiousness, wherein this trait is not just one single behavior. It has many different part, and this affect decision in different ways. But we have two important parts, which are the achievement striving and the dutifulness. So people who are achievement striving are very focused on success because they strongly dislike or hate failures. So these people are more likely to continue with a decision even though it is already failing because nga they hate the feeling of failure. So this behavior is what we call the escalation of commitment, which means sticking to a bad decision just because a lot has already been invested in it. On the other hand, we have the dutiful people, wherein they behave differently and they are more likely or more concerned with doing what is best for the organization or group. So because of this, they are less likely to continue with a failing decision and are more willing to stop and choose a better option. So achievement-striving individuals are also most likely to experience hindsight bias, wherein this bias happens when people believe that they knew it all along after something has already happened. So they often do this to justify their decisions and protect their image. So, however, there is not enough evidence to show whether a dutiful people are affected by this bias or not. Now, let's discuss self-esteem. So, people with high self-esteem are very motivated to protect how they see themselves. So, because of this, they often use something called the self-serving bias, where this means that they take credit for their success, blame others or outside factors for their failures. Next is let's talk about gender or gender differences and how it affects decision making. So research shows that women are more likely to ruminate or they are more likely to overthink problems. So women tend to spend more time analyzing a decision before and after it has already been made. So this can help them think more carefully, but it can also make decisions harder because it increases regret and raises the risk of depression. In fact, women are almost twice as likely as men to experience depression. So there are several reasons why women may overthink more. So parents may encourage girls to express emotions more, or women may care more about other people's opinions, and they are maybe more empathic. So girls starts overthinking more than boys around the age of 11. But this difference decreases as people get older. Next one is mental ability, which also affects decision making. People with higher intelligence process information faster and learn more quickly. However, being smart does not completely prevent decision errors. So intelligent people can still be overconfident or stick to bad decisions. The good news is that once they are taught about these mistakes, they learn faster and are better at avoiding these logical errors. Next is culture or cultural differences in decision making. So the rational decision making model does not fully consider cultural differences. So people from different cultures, such as Indonesians and Australians, do not make decisions in the same way. So a person's culture can influence what they see as a problem, or how deeply they analyze it, how important logic is, and whether decisions are made individually or in groups. Culture also differ in time orientation and problem-solving style. For examples, managers in Egypt tend to make decisions more slowly than managers in United States. In North America, rational and logical decisions making is highly valued, while in some countries such as Iran, appearing rational is less important. So some cultures focuses on solving problems like the United States, while other focuses on accepting situations such as Thailand and Indonesia. So decision making in Japan is more group oriented, where cooperations and consensus is are valued. So in short, culture plays an important role in how people make decisions, even though more research is still needed. So now moving on to the organizational constraints and how they affect decision making. So even if managers want to make rational decisions, organization place limits on them. So these limits can cause decisions to move away from the rational decision making model. So now let's take a look at the main constraints. So firstly is we have performance evaluation, wherein managers are influenced by how their performance is measured. So when the manager knows what is being evaluated, they shape their decisions to look good on those measures. So for example, if a manager believes that good performance means having no complaints, then employees may hide problems so negative informations does not reach the top management. So that is performance evaluation. Next is we have reward systems. So organization influences decisions through reward like promotions, bonuses, and recognition. So these rewards shows which behavior is or are valued. For example, if an organization rewards a manager who avoids risks, then the others will make safe and conservative decisions. So in the past, General Motors promoted managers who avoid controversy. So now, difficult decisions were often passed to committees. We have formal regulations, wherein organizations use rules and policies to control how a work is done. So these rules help maintain order but also limit freedom in decision making. For example, a fast food manager follows strict rules for cooking, cleaning, and operations, leaving little room for personal judgments. So next one is we have the system imposed time constraints, which wherein many decisions must be made within deadlines. So limited time makes it hard to gather complete information. Now, for example, Managers may need to submit reports by a set dates, forcing them to decide quickly even when not all data is available. So, lastly is we have historical precedents. So, decisions are often influenced by past decisions and established practices. So, people tend to follow what was done before. For example, a company may continue using the same strategy simply because it has always worked that way, even if better options exist. So, in short, organizational complaints strongly influences decision making. So, performance evaluations, reward systems, rules, the time limits, and past decisions can all prevent managers from making fully rational choices. Now, moving on to the three ethical decision criteria used in decision making. So, these criteria will help managers decide what is right or what is wrong when making a choices or decision in an organization. So, first, we have utilitarianism, wherein this approach means making decisions based on their outcomes. So, with the goal of achieving the greatest good for the greatest number of people. So, this view is very common in business decision making because it supports goals like efficiency, productivity, and high profits. So, if a decision benefits most people and improves overall results, it is considered ethical under utilitarianism, even if some individuals are negatively affected. For example, a company may lay off workers to reduce cost and increase profits. So, believing that the decisions help the organization survive and benefits most stakeholders. So, that is utilitarianism. Next is the rights-based ethic, wherein this criteria focuses on individual rights. So this approach says decisions should respect and protect fundamental liberties such as found in the Bill of Rights. So these rights include privacy, free speech, and due process. So when a manager uses this approach, they avoid decisions that violate a person's basic rights, even if the decision could increase efficiency or profit. For example, this criterion protects whistleblowers, the employees who reports unethical practices. So, because they are exercising their right to free speech, even if it harms the organization's image. So next is we have the justice of fairness, wherein it focuses on justice, which means applying rules fairly and equally and ensuring an equitable distribution of benefits and costs. So this view is often supported by labor unions. So under this approach, fairness is more important than performance differences. So, for example, paying employees the same wage for the same job or using seniority rather than performance when deciding layoffs is considered ethical under the justice criterion. So each of these ethical approach has an advantage and disadvantage. So for utilitarianism, it improves efficiency and productivity, but it may ignore the rights of minorities or less powerful individuals. In rights-based ethics, it protects individuals and support freedom and privacy, but they can create a legalistic environment that slows productivity. In justice-based ethics, it protects unrepresented groups, but they may reduce risk-taking, innovation, and productivity by creating a sense of entitlement. So many decision makers, especially in for-profit organizations, they feel most comfortable using utilitarianism. they often justify actions like mass layoffs by saying that they are the best interest of the organization and its stockholders. However, critics argues that this way of thinking needs to change. So today, there is a growing public concern about individual rights and social justice. This means na yung mga managers are encouraged to use non-utilitarian ethical standards even though they are more complex and less clear. So decisions such as raising prices, selling products that may harm health, closing factories, laying off employees, or moving production overseas may be justified using utilitarian logic, but they are no longer judged only by profit and efficiency. So in short, ethical decision making involves balancing outcomes, individual rights, and fairness. So while utilitarianism is still widely used, modern organizations are increasingly expected to consider rights and social justice when making a decision. Now, lastly, we have improving creativity in decision making. So although the rational decision-making model helps improve decisions, rational thinking alone is not enough. So decision makers also need creativity, which is the ability to produce new and useful ideas that fit the problem. So creativity helps decision makers see problem in new ways, including problems others may not notice. So some organizations actively develop creativity. For example, L'Oreal uses creative activities like cooking or making music for managers, while the University of Chicago requires MBA students to make short film about their experiences. Now we have here the creative potential. So most people have creative potential, but it often remains unused because people fall into psychological ruts, meaning they think in the same way all the time. So to be creative, people must learn to think divergently or in a different and flexible ways. So exceptional creativity is rare. So we often think of creative genius like Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso, or Steve Jobs. But research shows that less than 1% of people are exceptionally creative and about 10% are highly creative and around 60% are somewhat creative. So this shows that people are capable of creativity even if they are not geniuses. So people who are more creative, they tend to be intelligent and open to experiences, independent, confident, willing to take risks, tolerant of uncertainty, and persistent. So exposure to different culture also improves creativity. This is why international travel or assignments can help spark creative thinking. Now we have three-component model of creativity. So the best explanation for creativity is the three-component model of creativity, which says creativity depends on three things. So firstly is we have expertise, wherein it is the foundation of creativity. So it includes knowledge, skills, and experience in a specific field. For example, film director Quentin Tarantino worked in a video rental shop or store when he was young, where he developed deep knowledge of movies. So this expertise later helped him become more creative in filmmaking. So without enough knowledge, creativity is limited. Example, someone with little programming knowledge cannot be very creative as a software engineer. Now, next is we have creative thinking skills, wherein it includes personality traits linked to creativity and the ability to see things in new and unusual ways. So, mood plays a very important role in this. So, active positive moods like happiness increase creativity. Passive moods like calmness do not help much. Fear and anxiety reduces creativity. Anger, when taken seriously, can actually increase creativity. So, being around creative people can also boost creativity. So, studies shows that having weak ties, knowing creative people but not being too close to them helps because they inspire ideas without limiting independent thinking. So lastly is we have intrinsic task motivation, wherein it means working on something because it is interesting, enjoyable, or challenging, and not just for rewards. So creative people often love their work and may even seem obsessed with it. So, a organization can encourage this by supporting the free flow of ideas, fairly judging creative ideas, rewarding creativity, providing resources and freedom, and having supportive leaders and trusting teams. Now, international differences and ethics. So, creativity and decision making are also affected by cultural differences. So, there are no global ethical standards. For example, in some country like China, bribery may be common, creating ethical dilemmas for foreign managers. In one case, in a USA manager fired an employee for stealing, following company rules, but later learned that the employee was executed, showing how ethical standards differ across countries. So, global organizations must set clear ethical principles while still considering local cultural norms to maintain fairness and consistency. So, in short, creativity is a part of effective decision making. Most people have creative potential, but it must be developed through expertise, creative thinking skills, and intrinsic motivation. So, organizations that support creativity and understand cultural differences can make better and more innovative decisions.